Isn't she adorable? Oh my gosh, love her so much. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be comparing the new Huda Beauty GloWish Tinted Skin Tint. Yeah, that's a skin tint with the NARS Tinted Moisturiser. Now, I have worn both of these tints at least 4 times. Today's going to be my 5th time trying both of them out. I have pretty solid opinions on both, but I've never really tried them side by side to see which one is better. So that's what we're gonna try today. Now, in terms of what shade to use for Huda, I can actually wear both shade 4 and shade 5. Shade 6 is a little bit too warm for me. It'll probably be perfect in summer for me. I'm in New Zealand, it's winter here in New Zealand. So when I'm a little bit darker, shade 6 I think would be a perfect match. However, shade 4 and shade 5 were the 2 shades that I was really confused with. So let me just put up a footage here to show you side by side what shade 4 and shade 5 look in GloWish. So what I'm going to do today is actually use shade 4 on one side of my face, and then I'll use the NARS Tinted Moisturiser on the other side. And in the NARS, my shade match is St Moritz. I'm going to stick with shade Moritz just because you can kind of see that the undertone for St Moritz, which is this shade right here, has a lot more golden of an undertone. I just thought I'd quickly swatch the Huda Beauty GloWish shades as well. So for Huda, we have shade 4, 5, and 6. And you can kind of see how these undertones compare to NARS as well. First, I'm going to go with Huda and apply that on this side of my face. So this is shade 4. As you can see, shade 4 is a decent matte. Maybe it's perhaps a little bit too neutral, but because these products are so sheer, it kind of works. It blends super easily into the skin, you saw that, but it's not extremely emollient or anything like that. So I can use the Huda both as with my fingers as well as with a brush. It applies really well with both. Now the Huda definitely feels slightly emollient, almost like a moisturizer. And it does give you a slight glowy look to the skin, which I really enjoy. Now I'm going to go in with my NARS Tinted Moisturizer. So I'm just going to take NARS. Now with the NARS, I can definitely detect a scent. It's a pleasant scent. I actually like the scent, but it's it definitely has fragrance in it. NARS also just blends into the skin really, really beautifully. You can see that it takes no effort whatsoever. Now, just because I'm comparing those two, what I can tell you is NARS feels less emollient than the Huda. So when I blended out Huda felt really, really hydrating and really emollient, whereas NARS actually applies a little bit more on the slightly matte side. So it still applies and blends beautifully, but you can probably see that this side of my face looks slightly less dewy than the Huda side. The Huda side is very, very glowy. The NARS side has a very natural glow. So this is not very glowy. It just looks really, really natural. So far, I really enjoy how both of these look on my skin. The Huda Beauty GloWish skin tint has actually settled into my pores a little bit. I mean, it doesn't look horrible or anything like that, but it's definitely noticeable. I feel like if you have enlarged pores, this formula is going to potentially emphasize those enlarged pores, because if you look at the NARS tinted side, this area looks very smooth. I definitely have large pores right here, but the formula hasn't sunken into the pores. It doesn't look obvious. Now let's see how other makeup products apply on top of both of these. So I'm going to take Huda Beauty's GloWish bronzer that I have been loving. So I'm going to go on the Huda side first and just pop this on. I think I picked up a bit too much. I'm going to go in on the NARS tinted side and just going to add a bit here. I'm finding that the blend is a little bit easier on the NARS side, and I think that's just because it has a slightly more matte finish, and so it kind of just sets down, so your brush can glide very easily and is able to blend quite easily on top of it. Whereas the Huda side, I feel like is quite emollient, so you just have to kind of work it in. However, I did notice that the bronzer did stick a little bit on the Huda side, and I think it's just because the formula is quite emollient. But if you buff it out, you will be fine. So time for some blush. I'm gonna use the Shiseido Minimalist Whipped Powder Blushes. I have the shade Sayoko. This is a beautiful color. It's like a really muted reddish tone. It's like a deep red. It's so pretty. Let's do the NARS side first. This is the NARS side. Oh my god, I love this blush. With my Hourglass brush number 2, and just going to pat this out. So this blush applies beautifully on top of NARS. There's really no issues. It blends in quite seamlessly. So I'm gonna now try this on top of the Huda. What do you guys think? Leave in the comment section below how you think makeup is applying in comparison on both sides. I think they blended in quite nicely as well. I didn't really have any issues blending this formula in. Perhaps it's just a little bit harder on the Huda side, just a teeny tiny bit. I have to put in extra effort to blend this. And that's just because it's slightly tacky. I'm thinking let's also apply a cream highlighter to see how that sits on top of these products. So I'm gonna use the Charlotte Tilbury highlighter that I've really enjoyed, but the packaging is terrible, and this is just gonna, oh my god, why? Look what's happened. Oh. Okay. This is a beautiful product, a beautiful cream highlighter, but the packaging, I can't do it, you guys. I can't do it. I'm gonna put this back in. I'm not gonna use it. I'm gonna pick something else. Okay, I'm gonna pick up this beautiful skin gloss from DC Cosmetics. This is in the shade Glossed Peach. I have done a video on these products with demos. They're beautiful, like seriously beautiful. A little bit of this. This is what the shade looks like. Oh, look at that. Isn't that stunning? I'm just going to apply that first on the Huda side. Take a little bit more. Ooh, that's so pretty. So this highlighter, this cream highlighter, did apply absolutely perfectly. It hasn't lifted the Huda Beauty skin tint or made a mess of the bronzer or the blush or anything like that. And do it on the NARS side. I feel like I can be a little bit more careless, shall we say, with the NARS side, because the NARS feels like it's set down, and so I can kind of go on top of it without worrying that it's going to dislodge my skin tint, whereas for the Huda, I felt like I had to be a bit careful. Either way, both have applied these really, really well. So that there is also so beautiful. Hey guys, so this is the final look. What do we think about the two sides? I'm just gonna come in a little bit close. That's the Huda Beauty. And that's the NARS. What do we think? Okay, so I'm going to wear this for the rest of the day today, and we're going to have a look at the wear test to see how both of these foundations perform, and I'm going to be back in about 8 hours and we'll take a look. The wear test is going to be, I think, really important for both of these products. I just want to let you know that I have combination skin. So I tend to get oily in my cheeks, oily on the forehead, a little bit oily on the nose, and then I have normal skin around the sides of my face, and I can sometimes get a little bit dry around my mouth, especially in winter here in New Zealand. So that is my skin type. So it's been 8 hours. I've reduced my lighting just so you can kind of see my skin a little bit better. And both sides of my face are pretty shiny, pretty dewy. Just gonna zoom in. By the way, I'm just holding this little girl right here because she wants some attention. So if you want to have a look just around my mouth area, and my pores, pay attention to my pores as well. So the Huda Beauty side is definitely a little bit more glowy, a little bit more greasy, shall I say, than the NARS side. But I think both of them are pretty equally glowy. And so I have combination skin. I've got oily cheeks, forehead and nose, and you know, I haven't blotted my face. I haven't added any additional powder throughout the day. So this is how shiny my skin is looking with both these products. I think you would have noticed, hopefully the camera captured it, it's something so tiny, is that when I have a look around my mouth, Huda Beauty has definitely settled into my laugh lines a lot more than the NARS. So yes, the NARS has settled, but it's very, very minimal. However, the Huda Beauty, I can see it all the way from the top here and all the way down. I can't see it here for the NARS. For the NARS, I can only see it right here. And for the Huda, it's this whole part. Huda's is also looking slightly cakey in this mouth area. Just very slightly. Whereas the NARS one, not so much. Now I've just created this little comparison chart. So let's take a look. So overall, in summary, what do we think about these two products? Now, first off, in terms of cost, you may think that NARS actually costs more. It is 45 USD compared to 37 for Huda Beauty. But when you actually compare it to cost per ml, they cost pretty much the same. So one isn't really more expensive than the other. Then in terms of shades, NARS offers 16 shades, whereas Huda offers 13 shades. Coverage, both of them have light coverage. I feel like you can build up the NARS one just a little bit more than the Huda. The finish for NARS, I really see that radiant natural finish. It also has a smoothing finish, so I definitely see it a little bit more blurring on the skin. Whereas Huda Beauty is glowy. It has slightly that metallic sheen. It's dewy. It's a very hydrating finish, but it isn't really smoothing. I don't find that my pores look blurred or smooth in any way with Huda's GloWish skin tint. In terms of application, both perform really well and apply really well. NARS offers SPF 30, Huda Beauty doesn't. Both of these formulas also don't have any drying alcohols, which is amazing. That's something I always look for in a formula. In terms of fragrance, NARS definitely has a fragrance. It is a nice fragrance, but irrespective of that, it does have fragrance. And Huda Beauty's is fragrance free, which is amazing. Now, I've got in here level of cakiness. So for NARS, there really isn't any cakiness that I've experienced from using it. So I've used NARS quite a few times now, same with the Huda, and every time I don't really get any cakiness from NARS, whereas I do get slight cakiness from the Huda, and generally that only happens to me around my mouth area. Sometimes it will happen to me in my forehead where I have my dry patch, so it feels like Huda perhaps clings or gets a little bit cakey in areas that are a little bit dry. In terms of settling into fine lines, NARS wins. And the lines on this side and the Huda sides just look far more pronounced. So NARS wins for that. In terms of clinging to dry patches, again, minimal to none for both these formulas. Even with Huda, sometimes it will cling to my dry patch, but it's not a lot. So I'm okay with that. In terms of oily areas, both of these formulas looked pretty oily for me at the 4-hour mark. So it's like really after that 4 hours that on a normal day, I would then need to go and blot. And that's true for both of them. In terms of accentuating large pores, for NARS, no. I feel like it's a little bit blurring over pores, and as my oils come through, yes, my pores will become a bit more visible, but it's still quite smoothing. Like, it hasn't rubbed off my face at all, and even on my forehead I can see that it actually looks pretty smooth, whereas that is not the case with Huda. I feel like with Huda I can see every little line and texture on my face, which I don't really see with NARS. And of course, the pores are a big thing with Huda. If you have enlarged pores and that's something that bothers you, I really wouldn't buy the Huda. The Huda will definitely accentuate those pores. I think both of them haven't really oxidized. They look pretty much the same to me. I wouldn't say they've oxidized to a point where you need to go and purchase a shade lighter or anything like that. Where both have worn pretty well, of course the Huda has gotten slightly cakier as I've worn it throughout the day, whereas the NARS hasn't. So I do think the NARS wears better throughout the day than the Huda does. I think we know who the clear winner is here. It's NARS. It's definitely NARS wins big for me. I think it's a really nice formula from Huda Beauty, absolutely, but there are some things to consider, and for me personally, I just prefer the NARS Tinted Moisturiser, so that's the one I'm going to pick up. Let me know how you found this video. Did you like the little table I created? Was that helpful? And do you want to see more comparisons in future? Perhaps the next comparison I could try could be the MAC, the new MAC Face and Body. Maybe, let me know. See ya. Bye. Bye everyone. We'll see you again soon. I was gonna say next week and I thought probably gonna film soon. Bye everyone. Bye.